"Leave my mother alone." The words came not from Margaret Hayes, the janitor frozen beside her mop bucket, but from her 14-year-old daughter Emma, standing in the doorway with her school backpack still slung over one shoulder and rain dripping from her jacket. Kyle Brennan, the black belt instructor, who had moments earlier humiliated Margaret in front of his advanced students, turned with a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. "What did you say, little girl?" "You heard me. Apologize to my mother." The dojo went silent. 20 students in white GIs shifted uneasily on the polished hardwood floor, their eyes darting between the imposing instructor and the slender teenager who had just walked into what felt like a lion's den. A child had just challenged a man who believed himself untouchable in his own kingdom. What happened next would leave the entire gym frozen in disbelief and set in motion events that would bring 40 of the most dangerous men in America to this small-town dojo. This is the story of how a quiet girl guarding a family secret changed everything with one devastating strike and a promise kept. Just before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from today. We love seeing how far these stories reach, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's special video. Now, let's jump back in. Enjoy the story. A quiet daughter's promise to her grandfather was about to be broken. For 12 years, her family's secret had been safe, hidden behind ordinary school days and silent car rides home. But tonight, in front of a crowd of strangers who saw her as nothing more than the janitor's kid, that secret would be used to defend the one person who had sacrificed everything for her. The scent of clean sweat and rubber mats filled the Iron Fist dojo. It was a place of discipline, a temple where men and women came to forge themselves into weapons, to test their limits, to earn the respect that came with each new belt tied around their waist. On the far wall, framed photographs of past tournament champions stared down with expressions of fierce determination. Below them, a long shelf displayed rows of gleaming trophies, each one a testament to Kyle Brennan's reputation as one of the most successful competitive martial artists in the state. The late evening silence was usually a comfort to Margaret Hayes. At 46, Margaret moved with a quiet efficiency that made her almost invisible. For the past 8 months, she had been the dojo's evening cleaner, arriving just as the last advanced class was finishing, her grey work uniform blending into the shadows of the lobby. She would wait patiently in the small supply closet for the students to bow out and leave before she began her work, transforming the space from a theater of controlled violence back into a pristine sanctuary ready for the next day's warriors. She took pride in her work. The mirrors had never been so streak-free, the floors never so perfectly polished that they reflected the fluorescent lights like still water. But tonight was different. Tonight, she had made a mistake. It was a small thing, really. She had started 10 minutes early, assuming the class had finished because the students were gathered in a circle, listening to Kyle deliver what she thought was a closing speech. She had wheeled her yellow mop bucket out onto the edge of the mat, not stepping on the training surface itself because she knew that was forbidden, and had begun to wring out her mop when Kyle's voice cut through the air like a whip crack. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" Margaret had frozen, her hands still gripping the mop handle, water dripping back into the bucket with soft plinking sounds that suddenly seemed deafening in the silence that followed. "I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan. I thought class was over. I'll wait outside." She had started to back away, pulling the bucket with her, when Kyle had stepped forward. His black belt stark against his white GI, his arms crossed over his chest in a posture that radiated authority and barely contained irritation. "You thought class was over? Do you see these students bowing out? Do you see them leaving?" "No, sir, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." "You made a mistake." Kyle had repeated her words slowly, as if tasting them, finding them inadequate. He turned to his students, 20 men and women ranging from brown belts to fellow black belts, all of them watching with expressions that ranged from uncomfortable to curious. "Class, this is Margaret. Margaret is our cleaner. Margaret apparently doesn't understand that when we are training, this space is sacred. Would someone like to explain to Margaret why we don't interrupt training?" No one had spoken. The discomfort in the room was palpable, a thick tension that made the air feel harder to breathe. Margaret had felt her face burning, her eyes fixed on the floor, wishing she could disappear into the shadows she usually inhabited so comfortably. "No one," Kyle had continued, his voice taking on a theatrical quality, playing to his audience. "Then let me explain. Margaret, in a dojo we have rules, we have discipline, we have respect. When you walk onto the edge of this mat without permission, without even checking if we're finished, you disrespect every person in this room. You disrespect the art we practice, do you understand?" "Yes, sir, I'm very sorry, it won't happen again." "I'm sure it won't." Kyle had smiled then, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had found an opportunity to demonstrate his authority, to remind everyone in the room exactly who was in charge. "But I think we need to make sure the lesson sticks. Tell me, Margaret, have you ever trained in martial arts?" Margaret had shaken her head, still not meeting his eyes. "No, never thrown a punch. Never learned how to defend yourself?" "No, sir." "That's a shame, because in this dojo, we believe everyone should know how to protect themselves. It's dangerous out there, Margaret. A woman your age, working late hours, cleaning up after people. You never know what might happen." He had paused, letting the words hang in the air, and then he had said the words that changed everything. "Tell you what, why don't you step onto the mat? I'll give you a free lesson. Right here, right now, in front of everyone. We'll teach you some basic self-defense. What do you say?" The cruelty of it had been breathtaking. Margaret had understood immediately what he was doing. This wasn't about teaching her anything. This was about humiliation, about putting her in her place, about reminding her that she was the help, that she existed in this space only at his pleasure, and that he could make her life miserable if he chose to. "Mr. Brennan, I don't think that's necessary. I really should just wait until you're finished." "I insist." His voice had hardened, the theatrical warmth vanishing. "Consider it part of your employment. We wouldn't want you to feel unsafe here, would we? Step onto the mat, Margaret." Margaret had looked up then, meeting his eyes for the first time, and she had seen something in them that made her stomach turn. He was enjoying this. He wanted her to refuse so he could make an issue of it. Or he wanted her to comply so he could embarrass her in front of his students. Either way, he won. She had been about to step forward, about to surrender to the inevitable humiliation, when the door to the dojo had opened and Emma had walked in, rain-soaked and breathless from running the 3 blocks from the bus stop. "Leave my mother alone." And now here they were, frozen in a tableau that felt like the moment before lightning strikes, when the air itself seems to hold its breath. Kyle turned fully, to face Emma, his smirk widening into something uglier. Well, the janitor has a daughter, and the daughter has a mouth. Does your mother know you talk to adults like that? Emma didn't move from the doorway. She stood perfectly still, water dripping from her jacket onto the lobby floor, her dark hair plastered to her face, her eyes locked on Kyle with an intensity that seemed strange in someone so young, so small. "My mother works hard. She doesn't deserve to be treated like this." "Treated like what?" Kyle spread his hands in a gesture of false innocence. "I was offering her a free lesson. That's generous, don't you think? Or maybe you'd like to take her place. You look like you could use some training, teach you some respect." Several of the students shifted uncomfortably. A young man near the back, maybe 19 or 20, with a brown belt tied around his waist, frowned and glanced at the woman next to him, an older black belt who was staring at Kyle, with an expression that might have been disappointment. Emma finally moved. She slipped her backpack off her shoulder and set it carefully on the floor of the lobby. Then she stepped out of her wet sneakers, leaving them beside her bag, and walked in her socked feet to the edge of the mat. "Emma, no." Margaret's voice was tight with fear. "Let's just go, please." But Emma wasn't looking at her mother. She was looking at Kyle, and when she spoke, her voice was calm, almost gentle, which somehow made the words more powerful. "If you want to teach someone a lesson, teach me. Leave my mother alone." Kyle's smirk faltered for just a moment, replaced by something that might have been surprise. Then it returned, harder than before. "You're serious? You want to step on this mat with me?" "I'll step on the mat, but not with you." Emma's eyes moved across the students until they settled on a young man near the front, a black belt with broad shoulders and a cautious expression. With him, unless you only fight people who can't fight back." The insult landed like a physical blow. Kyle's face flushed red, and for a moment, the mask of theatrical cruelty slipped, revealing genuine anger underneath. "You have no idea who you're talking to, little girl. I've been training for 20 years, I've won state championships, I've taught hundreds of students, and you think you can walk into my dojo and disrespect me?" "I think," Emma said quietly, "that you're a bully, and I think someone should show you what it feels like." The dojo went completely silent. Even the sound of breathing seemed to stop. Margaret had gone pale, her hand pressed to her mouth. The students were staring at Emma with expressions ranging from shock to something that might have been hope, as if they had been waiting for someone, anyone, to stand up to Kyle and his increasingly cruel teaching methods. Kyle stared at Emma for a long moment, and then he laughed. It was a harsh barking sound without any real humor in it. "Fine, you want a lesson? You'll get one, but we do this properly. You step on this mat, you bow to me, and you accept whatever happens. And when I'm done, you and your mother apologize, and then you both leave and don't come back. Deal?" Emma nodded once. "Emma, please." Margaret's voice broke. "You don't have to do this." Emma turned to her mother, and for the first time she smiled. It was a small, sad smile that made her look older than her 14 years. "Yes, I do, Mom. It's okay, I promise." She turned back to Kyle and stepped onto the mat, her socked feet silent on the polished wood. She walked to the center and stopped, standing with her feet shoulder-width apart, her hands loose at her sides, her posture relaxed but somehow ready. Kyle followed her onto the mat, and the difference between them was stark. He was 6 feet tall, maybe 200 pounds of muscle earned through decades of training. She was 5'3", maybe 110 pounds, wearing jeans and a damp hoodie, looking like any other teenager you might pass on the street without a second glance. "Bow," Kyle commanded. Emma bowed, a shallow nod of her head, her eyes never leaving his. Kyle bowed back, the gesture perfunctory, dismissive. Then he settled into a fighting stance, his weight balanced, his hands up, his expression confident. "Last chance to apologize and walk away." Emma didn't respond. She simply stood there waiting, her hands still at her sides. Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Fine, let's see what you've got." What happened next would be filmed on 3 different cell phones and uploaded to social media within the hour, where it would be viewed by 10 million people in the first 24 hours. But in that moment in the dojo, there were only 22 witnesses to the impossible. Kyle moved first, as everyone knew he would. He was a competitor, a man who had built his reputation on aggressive, overwhelming offense. He closed the distance between them in 2 quick steps and threw a front kick aimed at Emma's midsection, a textbook technique designed to test her reaction, to see if she would panic or freeze. The kick never landed. Just as his foot was about to connect, Emma shifted her weight. It was a tiny movement, almost imperceptible, a slight rotation of her hips that moved her torso just far enough to the side that Kyle's kick passed through. Empty air where she had been standing a fraction of a second before. Kyle's momentum carried him forward, off balance for just an instant, and he had to take an extra step to recover. He turned back to face her, his expression now showing the first hint of confusion. Emma hadn't moved her feet. She had simply swayed like a reed in the wind, and his kick had missed completely. "Lucky," Kyle muttered, though he didn't sound convinced. He attacked again, this time with a combination. A jab, a cross, and a roundhouse kick, a sequence he had drilled 10,000 times, a sequence that had won him tournaments. The punches were fast, precise, powerful enough to knock out an adult if they landed clean. Emma moved like water. She tilted her head to avoid the jab, swayed back from the cross, and when the roundhouse kick came whistling toward her ribs, she simply wasn't there anymore. She had pivoted on her back foot, turning her body perpendicular to the kick, and it passed inches in front of her without making contact. Kyle stumbled again, his breathing already coming harder, not from exertion, but from the adrenaline spike of confusion and the first cold touch of fear. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. The students were leaning forward now, their eyes wide. The young brown belt in the back had pulled out his phone and was filming. The older black belt woman was staring at Emma with an expression of dawning recognition, as if she was seeing something she hadn't expected to see in this small-town dojo. Kyle reset his stance, his jaw clenched. "Stop running and fight." Emma spoke for the first time since stepping onto the mat, and her voice was calm, almost clinical. "Your movements are too wide. You telegraph your intentions with your shoulders. You drop your right hand when you throw your left, and you're off balance because you're angry." The words hit Kyle harder than any punch could have. His face went from red to purple, and the last vestiges of control vanished from his eyes. "You little!" He lunged at her, abandoning technique entirely, throwing a wild haymaker that had all his weight behind it, a punch that would have broken bones if it connected. Emma moved inside the punch. It was a movement so fast, so precise that most of the students didn't see exactly what happened. One moment Kyle was swinging, and the next moment Emma was standing inches from him, well inside his reach, her left hand deflecting his arm at the wrist, redirecting all that momentum harmlessly past her shoulder, and her right hand moved. It was a blur of motion, her fingers held stiff and straight like a spearhead, her arm extending from her shoulder with perfect alignment, every ounce of her body weight channeled through that single point. She didn't aim for his head or his chest. She aimed for a very specific point just below his rib cage, the solar plexus, the nerve cluster that, when struck correctly, can paralyze the diaphragm and send the entire nervous system into shock. The strike landed with a sound that wasn't loud but was sharp and final, like a dry stick snapping. Kyle froze. His entire body went rigid, his eyes going wide, his mouth opening in a silent gasp. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. The electrical signals from his brain to his muscles had been interrupted, and for several long seconds, he was a statue, locked in place by the precise application of force to a target the size of a quarter. Emma stepped back, her hand returning to her side, her expression unchanged. Kyle collapsed to his knees, then forward onto his hands, gasping like a fish out of water, his body slowly remembering how to function as the shock wore off. The dojo was absolutely silent. Emma looked around at the students, her gaze moving from face to face, and then she asked, her voice still calm, still gentle, "Does anyone else want a lesson?" No one moved. No one spoke. Emma turned and walked off the mat, stepping carefully over Kyle's prone form, and went to her mother, who was staring at her with an expression of shock and something else, something that might have been recognition. "Come on, Mom, let's go home." Margaret nodded mutely, abandoning her mop and bucket, and followed her daughter out of the dojo into the rain. Behind them, the students began to move, some rushing to Kyle's side, others pulling out their phones, everyone talking at once in hushed, urgent voices. The young brown belt with the phone was already uploading the video, his hands shaking slightly as he typed a caption, "Black belt instructor challenges janitor's daughter. You won't believe what happens next." Within an hour, the video had 1,000 views. Within 3 hours, 10,000. By morning, it would have 10 million, and the comments section would be filled with people trying to identify the style Emma had used, the technique she had employed, the training she must have received. And among those comments, buried in the flood of speculation and amazement, would be one from a man who hadn't posted on social media in 15 years, a man who had spent his career in shadows and silence, a man who recognized exactly what he had just seen. The comment would say only, "I know that girl's grandfather. I'll be there tomorrow." But Emma and Margaret didn't know any of that yet. They walked through the rain to their car, an old sedan with a dented bumper and a passenger window that didn't roll down anymore, and they sat in silence for a long moment before Margaret finally spoke. "Emma, what did you just do?" Emma stared through the windshield at the rain streaming down the glass, her hands folded in her lap. "I broke my promise, Mum." Margaret reached over and took her daughter's hand, squeezing it gently. "Tell me." And so Emma told her. And as she spoke, Margaret began to understand the secret her father had kept, the training he had given his granddaughter in the years before his death, and the promise he had made her swear. Emma remembered a sunny afternoon in his small, neat backyard when she was 9 years old, 3 months before the cancer would take him. Her grandfather, Robert Hayes, had been teaching her a sequence of movements, a kata that looked like a dance, but was actually a catalogue of devastating techniques disguised as graceful motion. "Emma," he had said, his voice already weakened by the disease eating away at his lungs, "I need you to promise me something." "Anything, Grandpa. What I'm teaching you, it's not a game. It's not for showing off. It's not for winning trophies or impressing your friends. Do you understand?" She had nodded, not entirely understanding, but knowing from his tone that this was important. "These techniques, they come from a place of necessity. I learned them because I had to, because my job required me to be able to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. But they're dangerous, Emma. In the wrong hands with the wrong intentions, they can hurt people badly. So I need you to promise me that you'll only use what I teach you for one reason. Can you guess what that reason is?" Emma had thought about it, her young face serious. "To protect people? To protect people who can't protect themselves. That's the only reason. Not because someone insults you, not because you're angry, not because you want to prove you're strong. Only to protect someone who needs protecting. Can you promise me that?" "I promise, Grandpa." He had smiled then, a tired smile that still held warmth. "Good girl. Now, let's go through that sequence again. And this time, remember to keep your weight centered." The memory faded and Emma found herself back in the car with her mother, the rain drumming on the roof. "He made me promise, Mom. And tonight I broke that promise. I used what he taught me, because I was angry, because I wanted to hurt someone who hurt you. That's not what he wanted." Margaret was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "Emma, look at me." Emma turned to face her mother, and she was surprised to see tears running down Margaret's cheeks. "Your grandfather would be proud of you. You didn't break your promise. You kept it. You protected someone who couldn't protect themselves. You protected me, but I was angry." Of course you were angry. I was being humiliated and you love me. But that's not why you stepped onto that mat. You stepped onto that mat because that man was going to hurt me, and you were the only one who could stop him. That's exactly what your grandfather meant. That's exactly what he trained you for. Emma felt something loosen in her chest, a knot of guilt and fear that had been tightening since the moment she had struck Kyle. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure, baby. I'm sure." They sat together in the car for a few more minutes, and then Margaret started the engine and drove them home to their small apartment on the edge of town, neither of them knowing that the video of Emma's fight was already spreading across the internet like wildfire, and that by morning their lives would change in ways they couldn't possibly imagine. Until now, Emma Hayes had been just the invisible daughter of the janitor, a quiet girl who got good grades and never caused trouble. Kyle. Brennan had challenged her as a joke, a way to humiliate her mother and demonstrate his authority. But what no one in that dojo knew was that the quiet girl had been trained by a man who had spent 30 years teaching some of the most dangerous people in America how to survive impossible situations. And now in the center of that mat, surrounded by disbelief and the wreckage of a bully's ego, she had shown the true meaning of protection. The next morning, Emma woke to the sound of her mother's phone ringing. It was 6 a.m., too early for any normal call, and she stumbled out of her bedroom to find Margaret standing in the kitchen, staring at her phone with an expression of confusion. "Mum, what's wrong?" Margaret looked up, her face pale. "Emma, you need to see this." She handed Emma the phone, and Emma found herself looking at the video from the dojo. The view count had reached 12 million. The comments section was exploding with new posts every second. And her phone, which she had left charging in her room, was buzzing with notifications, dozens of them, hundreds of them. "Oh no," Emma whispered. "There's more," Margaret said quietly. "Mr. Brennan called me an hour ago. He fired me. He said I was no longer welcome at the dojo and that he was going to make sure no one else in town hired me either. He said," her voice broke, "he said we humiliated him and he was going to make us pay for it." Emma felt a cold fury settle over her, different from the hot anger of the night before. This was calculated, purposeful. "He can't do that." "He can, honey. He's well connected in this town. He knows the owners of half the businesses here. If he tells them not to hire me..." She trailed off, but the implication was clear. Emma's mind was racing. She had protected her mother from immediate harm, but in doing so, she had made an enemy of a man who had power in this community, a man whose ego she had shattered in front of. His students and now in front of millions of people online. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Over the next 3 days, Margaret's prediction came true with devastating speed. She was let go from her morning cleaning job at the elementary school, told that budget cuts required them to reduce staff. Her weekend position at the grocery store was eliminated, the manager apologizing but firm. By the end of the week, she had lost all 3 of her jobs, and Emma knew with absolute certainty that Kyle was behind it. She wanted to confront him, to march back into that dojo and demand he stop, but she knew that would only make things worse. He wanted her to react, wanted an excuse to call the police, to paint her as a violent threat. So instead she watched and waited, and she began to notice things. Kyle was following them, not obviously, not in a way that would be easy to prove, but he was there. She saw his car parked across the street from their apartment building. She saw him in the grocery store when they went shopping, always in the next aisle over, always watching. She saw him drive past the bus stop where she waited after school. He was trying to intimidate them, to make them feel unsafe, to push them into leaving town. And it was working. Margaret was terrified, jumping at every sound, checking the locks on their apartment door 3 times before bed. They were behind on rent, their savings dwindling rapidly, and the landlord had already warned them that if they couldn't pay by the end of the month, they would be evicted. Emma felt the weight of it crushing down on her. She had tried to protect her mother, and instead, she had made everything worse. She was sitting in her room, staring at her grandfather's photograph on her desk, when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "I saw the video. I think I can help. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at 3 p.m. Come alone. Ben." Emma frowned. She didn't know anyone named Ben, but something about the message felt genuine, and she was desperate enough to take the chance. The next day, she told her mother she was going to the library to study, and instead took the bus to Riverside Park, a small green space on the edge of town with a playground and a walking path along the water. A young man was waiting for her on a bench near the playground. He was maybe 19 or 20, wearing jeans and a hoodie, and it took Emma a moment to recognize him as the brown belt from Kyle's dojo, the one who had been filming. "You're Ben." He nodded and gestured to the bench. "Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you would." Emma sat down, keeping a careful distance between them, her body angled so she could see his hands, old habits from her grandfather's training. "Why did you want to meet?" Ben was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "I've been training at Kyle's dojo for 3 years. I've seen him do a lot of things I wasn't proud of, but I told myself it was just his teaching style, that he was tough but fair. After what he did to your mom, after what he tried to do to you, I realized I was lying to myself. He's not a teacher. He's a bully with a black belt." "Okay," Emma said slowly, "but why are you telling me this?" "Because he's not going to stop. I've seen him do this before, to people who challenged him or embarrassed him. He uses his connections, his reputation, to make their lives miserable until they leave town or apologize publicly. And I think you should know that he's planning something." Emma felt her stomach tighten. "What kind of something?" "I don't know exactly, but I heard him on the phone yesterday, talking to someone about teaching that little bitch a lesson she won't forget." His words, not mine. And he was laughing. Emma's hands clenched into fists. "So, what do I do?" Ben leaned forward, his expression serious. "You fight back, but not the way he expects. Not with your fists, with evidence, with the truth. He's been harassing you, right? Following you. We document it. We build a case. And then we expose him, not just to the police, but to everyone. We show people who he really is." "How?" Ben pulled out his phone. "I've already started. I've been filming him. I got footage of him parked outside your apartment building yesterday. I got footage of him following your mom to the grocery store. It's not much yet, but it's a start. If you help me, if we work together, we can get enough to bury him." Emma stared at him, trying to decide if she could trust him. Why are you doing this? You're his student. Not anymore. I quit yesterday. And I'm doing this because what he did to your mom, what he's doing to you, it's wrong. And because, he hesitated, then continued, because I recognized your style, the way you moved, the strike you used. My uncle was in the Navy. He was a SEAL. He showed me some techniques once, just basic stuff. But I recognized the principles. Your grandfather taught you, didn't he? He was military. Emma nodded slowly. He was a SEAL. He never talked about it much, but yeah, he taught me. Ben's expression shifted to something like awe. That explains it. Kyle never had a chance. He's a sport fighter, a competitor. You were trained by someone who fought for real in situations where losing meant dying. That's a completely different level. It doesn't matter now, Emma said bitterly. I beat him in a fight and now he's destroying my mum's life, some protection. It matters, Ben said firmly, because you showed everyone what he really is. You pulled back the curtain, and now we're going to make sure everyone sees the whole picture. Are you in? Emma thought about her mother, about the fear in her eyes, about the bills piling up on their kitchen table, about the promise she had made to her grandfather. I'm in. Over the next week, Emma and Ben became a team. Ben would follow Kyle during the day, documenting his movements, while Emma kept a detailed log of every time she saw him, every threatening gesture, every moment of harassment. They created a shared folder online, uploading photos and videos, building a timeline. And then Ben had an idea. Kyle's dojo has a Facebook page, right? And a website with a forum where students can post? I guess so. Why? Because Kyle's ego won't let him stay quiet. If we post something on that forum, something that challenges him, he'll respond. And if we can get him to lie, to make claims we can disprove with our evidence, we can expose him publicly. It was risky, but Emma was out of options. They crafted a post carefully, using a fake account, and posted it to the dojo's forum late one night. I heard Kyle Brennan got beaten up by a little girl, and now he's harassing her family because he's embarrassed. Is this true? Is this the kind of person we want teaching martial arts in our community? The response was immediate. Within an hour, Kyle had posted a long, angry reply, claiming that Emma had attacked him without provocation, that she was dangerous and unstable, that he had only been trying to help her mother, and that the video had been edited to make him look bad. Every word was a lie, and Emma and Ben had the evidence to prove it. They waited one more day, letting Kyle's post spread, letting people share it and comment on it, letting him dig his hole deeper. And then they released everything. The full unedited video from the dojo, showing Kyle humiliating Margaret, showing him challenging Emma, showing the entire fight from start to finish with no cuts or edits. The photos and videos of Kyle following them, time-stamped and geotagged, showing a clear pattern of harassment over multiple days. Screenshots of text messages from Margaret's former employers, messages that made it clear they had been pressured to fire her. A statement from Ben, explaining why he had quit the dojo and what he had witnessed during his 3 years as Kyle's student. They posted it all to the forum, to Facebook, to Reddit, to every platform they could find, and they titled it simply, "The Truth About Kyle Brennan." The response was explosive. Within hours, the post had been shared thousands of times. Local news outlets picked up the story, the comments section filled with people sharing their own experiences with Kyle, stories of bullying and intimidation that had been kept quiet for years. And then, 24 hours after Emma and Ben released their evidence, something happened that neither of them had anticipated. A comment appeared on the original viral video, the one that now had over 20 million views. It was from an account with no profile picture, no personal information, just a name. J. Mitchell. The comment said, Emma Hayes is the granddaughter of Senior Chief Robert Hayes, one of the finest SEALs I ever had the honor of serving with. Robert trained her himself before he passed. What you saw in that video is a fraction of what she's capable of. And if Kyle Brennan thinks he can harass Robert's family without consequences, he's about to learn a very painful lesson about the Brotherhood. We take care of our own. See you tomorrow, Kyle. Emma saw the comment at midnight and felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't know who Jay Mitchell was, but something about the tone of the message, the quiet certainty of it, made her believe every word. She called Ben. "Did you see the comment?" "I saw it. Emma, I think you should stay home tomorrow. I think something's about to happen." But Emma couldn't stay home. She had to see this through, whatever it was. The next morning, she and her mother drove to the dojo. They didn't go inside. They parked across the street and waited. And at exactly 9 a.m., a convoy of vehicles pulled into the parking lot. Trucks, SUVs, motorcycles, 15 vehicles in total, and from them emerged 40 men. They were all ages, from their 30s to their 60s, but they moved with the same purposeful grace, the same quiet confidence. They wore civilian clothes, jeans and jackets and boots, but there was something about them that marked them as different, as dangerous. And every single one of them walked into the Iron Fist dojo like they owned it. Emma and Margaret got out of their car and moved closer, staying on the sidewalk, watching through the large front windows. Inside, Kyle was teaching a morning class, a dozen students in white GIs going through a kata. He stopped mid-instruction when the door opened, and the first of the men walked in. The man was in his 50s, tall and lean, with grey hair cut military short, and eyes that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. He didn't bow. He didn't remove his shoes. He simply walked onto the mat and stood in the center, his arms crossed, and waited. Kyle's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, irritation, and then, as more and more men filed in behind the first, something that might have been fear. "Excuse me, we're in the middle of a class. You can't just—" "My name is James Mitchell," the gray-haired man said, his voice calm and carrying easily through the dojo. "I served with Robert Hayes for 15 years. These men served with him too, or served with men who served with him. We're all part of the same brotherhood, and we're here because you made a very stupid mistake." Kyle's students had stopped moving, frozen in their stances, staring at the 40 men who now filled their dojo. "I don't know what you're talking about," Kyle said, but his voice lacked conviction. "You humiliated Robert's daughter, you challenged his granddaughter, and when she defended her mother, when she showed you exactly what Robert taught her, you decided to retaliate. You got Margaret fired from her jobs. You followed them, you harassed them, you tried to intimidate them into leaving town." James Mitchell's voice never rose, never hardened, but somehow it filled the space with an authority that made Kyle's bluster seem like a child's tantrum. "That ends today. You can't come in here and threaten me. I'll call the police." "Please do," James said. "I'd be happy to explain to them why 40 Navy SEALs, active and retired, felt it necessary to pay you a visit. I'd be happy to show them the evidence of your harassment. I'd be happy to let them know that you've been stalking a 14-year-old girl. How do you think that conversation will go, Kyle?" Kyle's face had gone pale. He looked around at his students, but none of them met his eyes. They were all staring at the SEALs, and the expressions on their faces ranged from awe to vindication. "What do you want?" Kyle's voice was barely above a whisper. "I want you to understand something," James said. "Robert Hayes was a brother to every man in this room. We bled together, we fought together. Some of us nearly died together. And when Robert passed, we made a promise to look after his family if they ever needed us. We don't break our promises, Kyle, ever." He took a step closer to Kyle, and despite the fact that Kyle was younger, bigger, and supposedly a trained fighter, he took a step back. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call every business owner you contacted and tell them you made a mistake, that Margaret Hayes is an excellent employee, and they should rehire her immediately. You're going to post a public apology on your dojo's website and social media, admitting that you harassed Emma and her mother, and that the video shows exactly what happened with no edits or manipulation. You're going to sell this dojo and leave town. And you're never going to contact Emma or Margaret again. Not a phone call, not a text, not even a glance if you pass them on the street, do you understand? And if I don't?" James smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. "Then we'll be back. And next time we won't be so polite." Kyle stared at him for a long moment, and Emma could see the exact instant when he broke, when the reality of his situation crashed down on him, and he realized he had no power here, no authority, no control. "Fine," he whispered. "I'll do it." "Good." You have 24 hours to make the calls and post the apology. 72 hours to list this place for sale. We'll be watching, Kyle. We're always watching. James turned and walked off the mat, and the other 39 SEALs followed him, filing out of the dojo in the same purposeful silence they had entered with. Kyle stood alone in the center of the mat, surrounded by his students, and for the first time since Emma had met him, he looked small. Outside, James Mitchell walked directly to where Emma and Margaret were standing on the sidewalk. Up close, Emma could see the lines around his eyes, the scars on his hands, the weight of experience in his posture. Emma Hayes. Yes, sir. Your grandfather was one of the best men I ever knew. He talked about you all the time, about how proud he was of you, about how you were going to do great things. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to his funeral. I was overseas. It's okay, Emma said, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for coming today. You didn't have to do this. Yes, we did, James said simply. Robert was family. That makes you family. And we take care of family. He glanced at Margaret. Mom, you should start getting calls today from your former employers. If any of them give you trouble, you let me know. He handed her a business card with nothing on it but a phone number. That number will reach me anytime, day or night. Margaret took the card with shaking hands. I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem like enough. It's enough, James assured her. He turned back to Emma. Your grandfather taught you well. That strike you used, the precision of it, that takes years of training to master. He would have been proud of how you protected your mother. But I want you to remember something he used to say, the strongest weapon isn't the one you carry, it's the one you choose not to use. You showed restraint in that dojo. You could have hurt that man badly, but you didn't. That's the mark of a true warrior. Emma felt tears prickling at her eyes. I was so angry I thought I broke my promise to him. You kept your promise, James said firmly. You protected someone who couldn't protect themselves. That's exactly what he trained you for. Don't ever doubt that. He nodded to both of them, then walked back to his truck, and within minutes, the convoy had pulled out of the parking lot, leaving Emma and Margaret standing on the sidewalk, watching them go. Inside the dojo, Kyle's students were leaving one by one, some of them stopping to bow to the empty mat before they went. A gesture of respect, not for Kyle, but for the art itself, for the principles he had violated. Ben came running up, breathless, his phone in his hand. Did you see that? Did you see them? I got the whole thing on video. Emma, do you know who those men were? My grandfather's friends, Emma said quietly. His brothers. Over the next 72 hours, everything James Mitchell had promised came true with mechanical precision. Margaret received calls from all three of her former employers, apologizing profusely and offering her jobs back with a raise. The elementary school even offered her a full-time position with benefits. Kyle posted a public apology that was clearly written through gritted teeth, but hit every point James had demanded. The comment section filled with people expressing support for Emma and Margaret, and several of Kyle's former students posted their own stories of his bullying behavior. The dojo was listed for sale within 48 hours, and Kyle was seen loading boxes into a moving truck by the end of the week. And through it all, Emma felt a strange mixture of relief and melancholy. The immediate threat was over, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she had crossed a line, that she had stepped into a world her grandfather had tried to protect her from. She was sitting in her room one evening, a week after the SEALs had visited, when her mother knocked on the door. Emma, can I come in? Sure, Mum. Margaret sat on the edge of Emma's bed, holding something in her hands. It was a small wooden box, worn smooth with age. Your grandfather gave this to me before he died. He told me to give it to you when you were ready. I think you're ready now. Emma took the box and opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a military dog tag on a chain. She unfolded the paper and recognized her grandfather's handwriting immediately. Emma, if you're reading this, it means you've had to use what I taught you. It means you faced a situation where you had to choose between staying safe and protecting someone you love. I hope I was right about you. I hope you chose to protect. I know you're probably feeling guilty right now, wondering if you did the right thing, if you broke your promise to me. Let me be clear, you didn't. The promise wasn't about never fighting. It was about fighting for the right reasons. It was about being a shield, not a sword. The world is full of people like the one you just faced, people who use their strength to hurt others, to intimidate, to control. And the world needs people like you, people who have the strength to stand up to them, to say no more, to protect those who can't protect themselves. I trained you because I saw something in you, Emma. I saw courage. I saw compassion. I saw someone who would use power responsibly, who would understand that true strength isn't about how hard you can hit, but about how much you can endure, how many people you can protect, how much good you can do. Wear this dog tag. It was mine and my father's before me. It's a reminder that you come from a long line of protectors, of people who stood between the innocent and the darkness. You're part of that legacy now. I'm proud of you, Emma. I was proud of you before you ever threw a punch, and I'll be proud of you long after I'm gone. Use your strength wisely. Use it sparingly. But when you need it, don't hesitate. Don't doubt yourself. Trust your training. Trust your heart. And remember, the strongest warriors are the ones who fight, not because they want to, but because they have to. I love you, kiddo. Always have, always will, Grandpa. Emma read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face, and then she put the dog tag around her neck and felt the cool metal settle against her chest right over her heart. He knew, she whispered. He knew this would happen. He knew you'd face challenges, Margaret said gently. He knew you'd have to make hard choices, and he trusted you to make the right ones. Emma looked up at her mother. Did I make the right choice? You protected me, Emma. You stood up to a bully. You kept your promise. Yes, you made the right choice. But I was so angry. I wanted to hurt him. Of course you did. He was hurting me, but you didn't let that anger control you. You used exactly the amount of force necessary to stop him, nothing more. That's discipline, Emma. That's what your grandfather taught you. Emma nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the dog tag, the weight of the legacy settling onto her shoulders. It was heavy, but it was a good weight, a purposeful weight. What do I do now? Margaret smiled. You keep living your life. You go to school. You do your homework. You be a kid. And if someone needs protecting, if someone can't defend themselves, then you step up, just like you did for me. And if I'm scared, then you're human. Your grandfather was scared plenty of times, I'm sure. But he did what needed to be done anyway. That's what courage is, Emma. Not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while, and then Emma asked the question that had been nagging at her since the SEALs had left. Mom, do you think Grandpa knew about the SEALs, about them watching over us? Margaret considered this. I think he hoped. I think he trusted that his brothers would remember him, would honor their bond. But I don't think he could have known for sure. That's what makes what they did so special. They didn't have to come, they chose to. I want to thank them. Then we will. We'll find a way. The next day, Emma called the number on the card James Mitchell had given her mother. He answered on the second ring. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, this is Emma Hayes. I wanted to thank you again for what you did. You and the others. You're welcome, Emma. How are you and your mother doing? We're good. Mom got her jobs back. Kyle left town. Everything's back to normal. Good, that's good to hear. Mr. Mitchell, I was wondering, would it be okay if I wrote letters to the men who came, to thank them properly? There was a pause, and then James's voice came back, warmer than before. I think they'd like that very much. I'll send you a list of addresses, but Emma, you should know you don't owe us anything. We did what we did because it was right, and because your grandfather was family. I know, but I want to anyway. And Mr. Mitchell, if there's ever anything I can do, anything at all, please let me know. I want to honor my grandfather's legacy. I want to be part of that brotherhood, even if I can't officially join. James was quiet for a long moment. Emma, you're already part of it. You were part of it the moment you stepped onto that mat to protect your mother. The Brotherhood isn't just about the uniform or the training. It's about the principles. It's about standing up when others won't. It's about protecting the innocent. You've already proven you understand that. Your grandfather would be proud. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. And Emma, if you ever need us, you call. Day or night, we'll be there. I will, thank you. She hung up and sat for a moment, feeling the dog tag against her chest, feeling the weight of her grandfather's legacy and the support of his brothers, and for the first time since the night in the dojo, she felt at peace. The story could have ended there, with justice served and balance restored. But life rarely wraps up that neatly, and there was one more chapter to be written. 2 weeks after Kyle left town, the Iron Fist Dojo was purchased by a quiet woman in her 50s named Sarah Chen, a former competitive martial artist who had been teaching classes out of a community center for years. She renamed it the Phoenix Dojo, a symbol of rebirth and transformation, and she offered free classes to anyone who couldn't afford the fees. One of her first students was Ben, the young man who had helped Emma expose Kyle, and one of her first instructors teaching a weekly self-defense class for women and girls was Emma Hayes. Emma had been hesitant at first, worried that teaching would somehow violate her grandfather's principles, but Sarah had convinced her otherwise. Your grandfather taught you to protect people who can't protect themselves, Sarah had said. What better way to do that than to teach them how to protect themselves? You're not creating fighters, Emma, you're creating survivors. You're giving people the tools they need to feel safe in the world. That's a gift. And so, every Saturday morning, Emma taught a class of 12 women and girls, ranging in age from 10 to 60, the basics of self-defense. Not the advanced techniques her grandfather had taught her, not the devastating strikes and joint locks, but the fundamentals: awareness, de-escalation, escape, and when all else failed, how to strike hard enough to create an opportunity to run. She taught them that fighting was always the last resort, that the best self-defense was avoiding dangerous situations in the first place, but that if they had no choice, they had the right to defend themselves with every ounce of strength they possessed. And she told them about her grandfather, about his promise, about the principle that had guided his life and now guided hers. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. The classes grew, word spread. Women came from neighboring towns, bringing their daughters, their sisters, their friends. The Phoenix Dojo became known as a place where people could learn not just how to fight, but how to stand tall, how to set boundaries, how to refuse to be victims. And Emma, the quiet girl who had once been invisible, became a symbol of something larger than herself. She became proof that strength didn't come from size or aggression, but from purpose, from discipline, from the willingness to stand up when it mattered most. 6 months after the incident at Kyle's dojo, Emma received a package in the mail. It was from James Mitchell, and inside was a photograph. The photograph showed 40 men in military dress uniforms, standing in formation, and in the center of the front row, kneeling with one hand on the shoulder of the man beside him, was her grandfather, younger than she had ever known him, his face serious, but his eyes warm. On the back of the photograph in James's handwriting was a note. Emma, this was taken after a particularly difficult mission, one where we all came home because Robert made a split-second decision that saved our lives. He was a protector, through and through. You have his eyes, his spirit, and his heart. Keep making him proud. J. Mitchell and the brothers of Team 7. Emma framed the photograph and hung it in the dojo, in the small office where she kept her grandfather's GI and belt, the one he had worn when he taught her, the one she would never wear but would always treasure. And every Saturday, before her class began, she would look at that photograph, at her grandfather's face, and she would remember his promise. And she would renew her own. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. It was a simple principle, but it was enough to build a life on, enough to honor a legacy, enough to make a difference in the world, one person at a time. Margaret thrived in her new position at the elementary school, and with the raise and benefits, she and Emma were able to move into a better apartment, one with 2 bedrooms and windows that actually opened. They were building a life, slowly but surely, and for the first time in years, Margaret felt secure, felt valued, felt seen. And Emma, despite the weight of her grandfather's legacy, despite the responsibility she had taken on, felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that the world could be better, that people could be better, that strength could be used for good instead of harm. Hope that her grandfather's sacrifice, his years of service, his dedication to protecting others had meant something, had created ripples that would continue long after he was gone. Hope that she could be worthy of the dog tag she wore, of the legacy she carried, of the trust her grandfather had placed in her. 1 year after the incident, Emma was teaching her Saturday class when a young girl, maybe 11 years old, raised her hand. "Miss Emma, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Were you scared?" "When you fought that man in the video?" The class went quiet. They all knew the story, had all seen the video that had made Emma briefly famous, but no one had asked her directly about it before. Emma thought about lying, about saying she hadn't been scared, about projecting an image of fearless confidence. But that wasn't what her grandfather would have wanted. That wasn't the truth. "Yes," she said simply, "I was terrified. But you did it anyway." "I did it anyway, because my mother needed me, because someone had to stand up, because I had the training and the ability, and that meant I had a responsibility." "What if I'm not strong enough?" the girl asked, her voice small. "What if someone tries to hurt me and I can't stop them?" Emma knelt down so she was at eye level with the girl. Strength isn't just about muscles or fighting skills. Strength is about refusing to give up. It's about using your voice, it's about knowing your worth, and it's about understanding that you don't have to face everything alone. There are people who will help you, who will stand with you, who will protect you if you need it. That's what my grandfather's friends did for me. That's what we do for each other. The girl nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears, and Emma pulled her into a hug. "You're stronger than you think," Emma whispered. "And you're not alone, none of us are." The class continued, and as Emma watched her students practice their techniques, she felt her grandfather's presence, not as a ghost or a memory, but as a living principle, a guiding light that would continue to shine long after she was gone, passed down from generation to generation, a legacy of protection and strength and compassion. That evening, Emma sat with her mother on the small balcony of their apartment, watching the sun set over the town, and Margaret asked her the question she had been holding back for months. "Do you regret it? Stepping onto that mat, breaking your promise to stay hidden?" Emma touched the dog tag around her neck, feeling the worn metal and the engraved letters of her grandfather's name. "I didn't break my promise, Mom. I kept it. And no, I don't regret it. I regret that it had to happen, that Kyle was the kind of person who would hurt you, that the world has people like him in it. But I don't regret protecting you. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Even knowing what it would cost, the attention, the responsibility, the weight of it all, even knowing. Because that's what Grandpa taught me. That's what those seals showed me. That's what I'm trying to teach my students. We don't get to choose whether hard things happen. We only get to choose how we respond. And I choose to respond the way Grandpa did, by standing up, by protecting, by refusing to let fear win." Margaret reached over and took her daughter's hand, squeezing it gently. "He would be so proud of you, Emma. I'm so proud of you." They sat together in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and gold, and Emma felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. She had faced her test, she had made her choice, she had honored her grandfather's legacy, and she would continue to do so every day for the rest of her life, because that's what it meant to be a protector. Not to seek out conflict, not to prove your strength, but to stand ready, to be prepared, to step forward when others stepped back, to be a shield for those who needed one, to keep the promise. Whenever I share one of these, I hope it gives you a chance to step out of the everyday and just drift for a bit. I'd love to know what you were doing while listening, maybe relaxing after work, on a late-night drive, or just winding down. Drop a line in the comments. I really do read them all. The months turned into years and Emma's life found a rhythm. She finished high school with honors, earned a scholarship to a state university where she studied education and psychology, and continued, teaching her self-defense classes every weekend when she came home. The Phoenix Dojo thrived under Sarah Chen's leadership, becoming a cornerstone of the community, a place where people came not just to learn martial arts, but to find confidence, community, and purpose. Ben became one of Sarah's senior instructors, eventually earning his black belt and opening a second location in a neighboring town. He and Emma remained close friends, bonded by the experience they had shared, by the stand they had taken together. And the video, the one that had started it all, continued to circulate online, racking up views, inspiring countless people to stand up against bullying, to protect the vulnerable, to refuse to be bystanders. Emma received messages from all over the world, from people who had been inspired by her story, who had found the courage to defend themselves or others because they had seen what she had done. She answered every message she could, always with the same core advice. Strength is a responsibility. Use it wisely. Use it sparingly. But when you need it, don't hesitate. Kyle Brennan was never heard from again. Rumors placed him in different cities, different states, always moving, always running from the reputation that followed him online. The Iron Fist Dojo became a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happened when ego and cruelty masqueraded as discipline and strength. And the 40 Navy SEALs who had walked into that dojo became legends in their own right, their interventions shared and reshared across military forums and veteran communities. A reminder that the Brotherhood extended beyond active service, that the bonds forged in combat lasted a lifetime. James Mitchell stayed in touch with Emma, calling every few months to check in, to offer advice, to share stories about her grandfather. He became a mentor to her, a connection to the part of her grandfather's life she had never fully known, and through him, she came to understand the depth of the sacrifice her grandfather and men like him had made. On the 5th anniversary of the incident, Emma organized a memorial event at the Phoenix Dojo. She invited James and as many of the SEALs as could make it, along with her students, her mother, and anyone from the community who wanted to attend. 23 of the original 40 SEALs came, traveling from across the country, and they stood together in the dojo, a wall of quiet. Strength as Emma spoke about her grandfather, about his legacy, about the principles he had lived by and passed down to her. "My grandfather taught me that true strength isn't about how hard you can strike," Emma said, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "It's about how resiliently you can stand in the light, armed with nothing but the truth. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. It's about being a shield, not a sword. And it's about understanding that we're all connected, that when one of us falls, we all reach down to lift them up." She paused, looking out at the faces gathered before her, at the SEALs who had honored her grandfather's memory, at the students who had found their strength in her classes, at her mother who had sacrificed so much to give her a good life. "5 years ago, I stepped onto a mat to protect my mother. I thought I was breaking a promise, but I've come to understand that I was keeping it. And every day since then, I've tried to honor that promise, to honor my grandfather's legacy, by teaching others to stand tall, to refuse to be victims, to protect the vulnerable. That's the gift he gave me. That's the gift I'm trying to pass on." The room erupted in applause, and Emma felt tears streaming down her face as James Mitchell stepped forward and pulled her into a hug. "He's watching, Emma," James whispered, "and he's proud. We all are." The event continued with demonstrations from the students, with stories shared by the SEALs, with laughter and tears and the kind of camaraderie that only comes from shared purpose and mutual respect. And as the evening wound down, as people began to leave, Emma found herself standing alone in the center of the mat, looking up at the photograph of her grandfather and his team, and she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the training he had given her, for the principles he had instilled in her, for the legacy he had left behind. Gratitude for the SEALs who had honored that legacy, who had protected her and her mother when they needed it most. Gratitude for the students who trusted her to teach them, who opened themselves up to vulnerability in order to find strength. Gratitude for her mother, who had worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and never once made Emma feel like a burden. And gratitude for the opportunity to make a difference, to be part of something larger than herself, to carry forward a tradition of protection and service that stretched back generations. She touched the dog tag around her neck, feeling the familiar weight of it, and she made a silent promise to her grandfather, to herself, to everyone who had believed in her. She would keep standing, she would keep teaching, she would keep protecting. Because that's what it meant to be part of the legacy. That's what it meant to honor the promise. That's what it meant to be strong. And that's where we'll end the story for now. Whenever I share one of these, I hope it gives you a chance to step out of the everyday and just drift for a bit. I'd love to know what you were doing while listening. Maybe relaxing after work, on a late-night drive, or just winding down. Drop a line in the comments, I really do read them all. And if you want to make sure we cross paths again, hitting like and subscribing makes a huge difference. We are always trying to improve our stories, so feel free to also drop your feedback in the comment section below. Thanks for spending this time with me. If this story moved you, write promise in the comments. This is a story from Underdog Dojo.